Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Have you ever felt like giving up on homesteading? Yeah, me too. Hi, my name's Corinne, and here at Spirea, I share videos that weave together plant wisdom, holistic health, self-sufficiency with just a dash of magic. If this sounds interesting to you, I'd love for you to stick around. So if you had talked to me last fall, I would have said I was done. I'm done with this homesteading lifestyle. And I think it's important to share sort of the journey that we've taken and what has brought us to this point, because if you're like me, there's going to be a time in your self-sufficiency, homesteading, homemaking journey where you just want to throw in the towel and say that this is too hard, it's too much. And I want to talk about that, but I also want to show you some of the things that we're changing around our homestead to make it a bit more manageable. So first I want to start with a little bit of background because I think it's important. My husband and I have not come from a farming background. We haven't come from a DIY background at all. I didn't really do any gardening. I didn't know how to cook by the time I went to university. I didn't know anything about preserving food or canning. So everything that we do on our homestead and that we're learning is completely self-taught. And last year was probably one of our most difficult years. The garden was completely overrun with weeds. We had realized very quickly that we had bitten off more than we could chew in terms of taking a property that didn't really have any garden beds or anything, the odd flower bed, not a lot, and turning it into what we have here now, which is kind of a fruit tree guild out front. I grow all of my medicinal herbs out front as well, plus multiple other places for perennial medicines, and then a massive vegetable garden. And in order to, save a little bit of money, we probably cut some corners in the landscaping in the garden. And as a result of that, we had so many invasive weeds. The mosquitoes were so bad that it was just to the point where I was so overwhelmed with work that I was like, is this lifestyle even worth it anymore? Is it even really bringing me any joy? Because I didn't want to come at it from a place of obligation, and I certainly didn't want to come at it from a place of fear, like we can't afford food if we don't grow it. And so there was a lot of soul searching that happened. And in the end, what we decided to settle on was a complete overhaul of both the medicine garden, which I'm going to show you today, and the vegetable garden. And it wasn't an easy decision to come to this because here we are, it's May, and we have a tremendous amount of work still left to do. We ended up ordering 8 yards of stone for the garden and 10 yards of soil. So that's a lot of stuff to move. We had multiple garden boxes to build, things to reconfigure and move around. But if this is what allows me to be able to continue this journey, then it's absolutely been worth it. So I wanted to talk a bit about the discouragement because it's going to happen. You're going to have full crop failures. You're going to have bugs that overrun everything that you're trying to do. And here you are trying to grow, chemical-free food in what's supposed to be companion planting and permaculture, and it's not really turning out the way that you think it's going to. And just know that there are a lot of us that have been there. Not everybody is raw and vulnerable when it comes to social media and sharing their journeys and talking about how difficult this can sometimes be. And yeah, I was at a place where I was like, between all the food preserving, the medicine making, teaching, seeing my clients, homeschooling my son, I was like, I'm out, I'm done. And so, like I said, the decision was to completely overhaul everything. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can get an idea of what's going on here and why we made some of the decisions that we made in hopes of making things more manageable for us. So now we're going to kind of venture in on a bit of a garden tour. So here we are at the front of my house, which is going to be my medicine garden. And for anyone who has been a part of this channel for a while or followed my journey, you know that this originally started as a medicine wheel garden, which had 4 quadrants. It was circular. It was really cool and pretty, but it was incredibly impractical in terms of weeding and maintenance. And I also made the mistake of planting numerous invasive species, which kind of took over. So what we did here is we built raised beds. And at first we were going to use steel and do like actual metal beds, but the cost was very, very high and we already had the wood. So as you can see, we built 4 L-shaped beds. So these are, and I am new to using this gimbal here. Usually this is my husband's job, so I'm hoping the camera is not too wobbly for you guys. Right along here, these are 8-foot boards, okay? And then we have 4-foot boards that make up the L shape, and then another 8-foot board along the edge. And then we just used a few pieces of wood to kind of brace and hold the corners in. When we fill our garden beds, we went with 4 layers of cardboard underneath, because as I mentioned, many of these garden beds were filled with invasive plants. And so we went with 4 layers of cardboard. Then we topped up with sticks, branches, and things we could find around the property, leaves, and then we used our triple mix. So only about half of this is actually triple mix. And I saved some catnip plants that are already in the garden. And then for underneath here, we ended up going with stone. This was what we decided, and we actually put down a tarp. So when we were choosing our stone, we went with a mixture of 3/4 crusher run, which is very similar to driveway material, so it's going to absorb a lot of the water. And then we did half a load of regular stone as well. So I've got lots of plans, and as I get my plants, I'll probably do a video of me actually planting everything and how I'll have it organized. No more invasive species in these beds, but this is one of the ways that we made things more manageable. And then we have a rock border around the outside, and then the rest we'll fill in with another load of wood chips. But this was a lot of what we were dealing with, was just invasive weeds pretty much everywhere. So one of the things to make it more manageable was to move to a raised bed system that would make watering easier, weeding and maintenance easier. And also it looks just fabulous. So this is out front. This is also where we have our fruit tree guild. You can see most of our fruit trees are here, and you can still see in the distance there all that stone I still have to move and soil. So now that we're done here, I'm going to take you to the backyard so you can see the changes that we did to the vegetable garden. So as I make my way to the vegetable garden and figure out how to use this gimbal, I have nothing but admiration for my husband dealing with this piece of tech. It doesn't seem to want to cooperate. I want to talk a bit about the original design to our vegetable garden, because we actually hired someone to design it for us, and it was fabulous. It had these mandalas and intricate sort of circular gardens that had these really beautiful teepee-like trellises. People could see from the road. They were like, oh yeah, I know which house is yours, you know. And I think a lot of our issues were cost-saving measures when we were trying to utilize as much of the soil as we could here. So in that first year we were here, I was painstakingly removing sod. And you know, yes, I put down layers of cardboard and things, but that breaks down over the years. And what ended up happening was invasive thistles and a few other species that just overtook absolutely everything. And it was to the point where all the enjoyment kind of got sucked out of the garden. And I remember watching an old Off Grid with Doug and Stacy video, and Stacy was talking about her raised beds and being like, I'm not going to do anything else ever again. Like, these are the best method for growing. And that's ultimately what we decided on as well. So for those who saw the vegetable garden before, I'm going to try and find some old pictures, because then I can kind of put them in and you guys can see. We have some aerial shots. It really was beautiful. But it was, if we don't do this, I'm quitting. And that was kind of where we were at. And I'm glad we didn't quit. I'm glad we decided to make the garden more manageable. We actually downsized a little bit, and with the chance to expand, right? So I'll turn the camera around again, show you some of the live and learn mistakes, and what we're doing and what we're creating back here. All right, so welcome to my vegetable garden. Now this is a work in progress, so please no harsh comments or judgments at this point. So mistake number one was planting, and it's a great little plant. This is called soken. This is what the indigenous people in this area call it. I'll make sure I have the accurate name, not accurate name, but the botanical name for it. I believe it is like a green-headed coneflower, and it's an edible, it's a wild edible. And I thought, how great would this be? And of course, it was horribly invasive and has spread all over the garden. It's everywhere. So mistake number one, right? Live and learn. But one of the biggest problems we had was just weed and pathway maintenance. It's really hard to tell in this video, but we were using wood chips as our pathways. And then this here, I know it's hard to tell, this is a garden loaded with weeds, and not even some of the invasive ones that I'll see if I can find. So what we've decided to do is go to a completely raised bed garden system. And if you can see the one at the far back there that has that A-frame trellis, we're going to be mirroring that with this one here, as well as the one that's in front of me here. And we still have one more garden box to build. You can see where that wheelbarrow is. There's going to be one more box in behind that. And all of these are going to have that A-frame trellis kind of look. So we're going to end up with 12 raised beds total, but with the ability to add to it. Now I'm going to show you what are supposed to be our perennial food beds. And this was the maintenance I was talking about. The weeds that ended up coming in were just unmanageable. Many of the strawberries, here there's one much further down. Many of the strawberries had started becoming overrun with this invasive grass that spreads by rhizome underneath. So even if you pull up one, you're not pulling up everything. And look, here's some more of that soken that made its way all the way over here. And it kind of sucks. Oh, here we are. I'll show you guys what it is that I'm talking about. So here you can see my husband actually dug all of this out. And this is our thick layer of cardboard. We may actually do even more layers because this bed was filled. And anybody who knows what this weed is called, please let us know, because this is the one that has been the bane of our existence. It's this prickly little bugger here. And it spreads by rhizome. And the longest rhizome we pulled out was almost 2.5 feet. And so each one of these is actually just one plant. And so you can pull it out, but if you don't get the whole root out, and it completely overtook, like this, if you can believe it, is where I grew my cucumbers last year. And it just became so unmanageable that it sucked the joy out of homesteading for me. Like here you can see our asparagus, but this is in theory one of my perennial garden beds. And it just became so overrun. So as I said, we have completely switched to raised garden beds. This is an area that we affectionately call Spirit Rock. And this was one, when we had the swale put in, this was one of the rocks that was actually dug up on the property. All of these rocks that we have everywhere came from our property. And we made the mistake of planting roses around here, which of course took over as well. So we'll be doing the same thing. Underneath all of the garden boxes are cardboard. So we have good drainage or landscaping fabric, whatever we might have. And then in the areas where the weeds are really bad, we're putting, see like right over here, we'll be putting down tarps and then stone up front or on top of it. So not my normal video content. I know I normally do more DIY tutorial kind of stuff, but I think it was really important to sort of share this story because as homesteading becomes trendier, people are worried food costs are going up, fuel costs are going up. There's rumors of food shortages. A lot of people are turning to this lifestyle, and I think it can be romanticized in the beginning. I remember when I first discovered it, it was thanks to Pinterest, right? And of course, it made it all look so easy. I can build a chicken tractor with PVC pipe, and I can do all of these neat little DIY projects. And the reality of it is actually a lot more difficult. And I think it's okay. It's okay to scale back. It's okay to rework original plans. It's okay to scrap original garden ideas and do something completely different. Like, we're redoing the entire garden. And there's nothing wrong with that, because in the end, this is a journey. It's a journey of self-discovery, of kind of personal evolution and growth. And it's a journey towards self-sufficiency. You're never going to be there right off the bat. And I just wanted to kind of share that story and also show some garden progress. I will continue to share our progress, because I'm hoping even just after this weekend, it's going to look completely different as we start to put in more pathways and there's more defined structure around all of the garden beds. So if you've ever had a time where you were ready to throw in the homesteading towel, I would love to hear your story. Please leave some comments below. And I think it's important, let's create some community and some camaraderie around this lifestyle, which is admirable, wonderful, rewarding, and also flabbergasting, overwhelming, and discouraging all at the same time. So until next time, this is Corinne from Spirea Herbs and Snail Trails Homestead, wishing you a bountiful and wonderful garden season.